I'm here to talk about the data lifecycle, specifically where's your data. She's very curious where a lot of her data just went. So are a few other people, by the way. Before we get too deep into this, we always throw up a quote because someone always said it better than I did. Although sometimes you need to make sure you check your sources because I'm pretty sure Abraham Lincoln didn't say that. I could be wrong about that. The internet I don't think was there yet. But first, let's talk about the actual data lifecycle itself. The data lifecycle, the way that I've envisioned it, and this is not a new topic, it's been around for a long time, about 6 or 7 steps, right? And we all break it up into its different forms. I like to think of it as a product lifecycle for data specifically. Well, what happens with that? You break it into its natural parts. You've got a natural maturation and introduction cycle. So this is where we're introducing data, we're growing data, we're capturing, we're cultivating. That turns into something that grows and we share. Well, at some point that dies off and it starts to decline. There's a life cycle, part of that. Well, from that, that's where we start talking about how it becomes productized. Everything that we're doing now with data is a product. Your cell phone, your whatever. Google, Nielsen, and Gartner, they've known that for a long time. That's how they start to sell television commercials. That's how they monetize these different things. Now we've got an Alexas, we've got the Echoes, we've got all these different things. My kids, by the way, tremendous innovators, they already figured out how to single order cookies with the Amazon Echo. Turn off your one option buy, by the way. Just a quick note there. But then we've also got things like these open source video games. Ghost Recon, fantastic game. But they're capturing data, they're capturing information. The beta was just open for that. They're capturing tons of data with this. We've also got cars that are now Wi-Fi enabled and are also capturing data. After we capture it, we gotta do something with it. We gotta synthesize it, we gotta organize it, we gotta aggregate it. Well, that takes a lot of different forms. Okay, sometimes if you look at the fish picture, by the way, are you seeing the fish getting eaten or the fish getting smaller? That's how you tell if you're an unstructured or structured data person, by the way. Rorschach test, anybody? Okay, so, but then we've also got a hybrid model. You've got some of this weather pattern data, which is not structured, but it is in a form that's conducive to all these different things. The models don't always mix, and I think it's because it's a little bit too contrite, it's a little bit too structured. Once we get this, though, what's actually happening with it, right? So when my kids reach out, Duff beer, by the way, Shawn Duffy, anybody? No? All right, sorry. That actually goes into a data center somewhere, and someone has to do something with it. Well, the actual storage of the data is no longer a gating factor, right? Storage is cheap. We've been hearing that for at least the last 10 years. But now all of a sudden it's easy to get to, it's out in the cloud, everybody can do what they want with it. Well, that's no longer a limitation. So what is the limitation? I think security. Obviously, Yahoo, it's in the news. Anybody also had to change all their passwords in the last couple of weeks? No? Okay. So we've also got a lot of valuation in this. You can actually quantify what happens when things aren't secure enough. If you do it right, there's a lot of fun stuff to be done, right? I love to use the Amazon and the Netflix models because those are actual screen prints from what I recently went to basically buy and view. They're recommending all these different things to me. Well, you can also use it for some fun stuff, right? Amazon, biggest retailer of clothing in the US. They beat out actual stores, like Macy's, real stores. Well, you can also use it now to win presidential elections. But there's also some really fun stuff to do with it, right? So we've got now these dashboards in our car that are tracking metrics and stats, and you get real-time analytics right there in your dashboard, right? We also get live feeds of what the traffic looks like. We know exactly how horrible our commute is gonna be right before we get in the car. Good times. Google Analytics is also another fun one. We can look at to see what is going on with our website at every possible second, and if you're like me, you're hitting the refresh button a lot, right? Because that quadrant is all about who gets the decision made faster. Like we talked about though, there is a decline, there's a decay. It has a shelf life. After a certain amount of time, it doesn't die off, but it becomes way less useful. And really, are we ever gonna hit the delete button? I think not. But we're getting closer to a point where our computers are acting more and more like HAL and the Star Trek computer, where we hit a button and we say, Alexa, order me more cookies. And then the cookies show up. It's fantastic. I think we're headed towards more of a neural network system here with the data. And biomimicry, awesome, really tied in perfectly. I think it's exactly there. We're headed in this direction. Things are going to be easier. It's going to be more of a neural network. We're going to ask a lot of questions. No more of a gating factor with space or compute power. It's all in how we organize it. Thank you very much for your time.